This is the Sonic Impulse Response Loading Pedal, and at its current price point, it's really in a class of its own. There's not much other stuff to compare it to. In this video, I want to demonstrate it, show you how to use it, how you can load your own custom impulse responses on it. It'll take cab IRs, acoustic IRs of your acoustic guitar or violin, whatever. It's really useful. It does have to meet the file specifications that this is expecting to see, which I'll talk about later in the video, but super easy to use, and I'm just going to show you a few ways we can use this. Most importantly, I also want to do an A/B comparison, because this is really cheap for what it does. This is really cheap. I just want to make sure that there's not going to be any signal degradation in one form or another. So we're going to be comparing the impulse responses. It actually comes with 11 of them. I took them out of here. I threw them in my Line 6 Helix. So we're going to do an A/B comparison towards the end of the video, where we just listen to the way the signal sounds. You'll get a chance to listen for yourself if you think this is adding anything good or bad to the sound. Let's talk about the physical aspects of this pedal briefly. The enclosure is all metal. The input and output, the TS connections, are high impedance, unbalanced, 1/4 inch, just like you would see on any other guitar pedal. Power connection, 9 volt, center plug, negative. Again, just standard specs for any guitar pedal. We do have a balanced, low impedance XLR connection here. So this is what you're going to want to use if you're going direct to the console or to your recording device, and this is the last pedal in your chain, use the XLR. If this is not the last pedal in your chain, use the standard TS output into the next pedal, whatever, and then finally a DI box is what you want. The two faults I can find with this enclosure is that the potentiometer here for the volume control up top, and the shaft for this encoder here underneath this knob that selects the impulse responses. They're both plastic. This enclosure, they're always plastic. The other downside is that there's no ground lift on the XLR. Someday you're going to need a ground lift. Now, the HX series of the Helix devices doesn't have a ground lift either, and so that's why I have a few direct boxes or line isolators that I like to keep handy. It also has a USB-C connector here on the side, which is how we interface this pedal with our computer in order to manage the IRs that come with it, or if we want to throw in some of our own custom IRs there. It does come with a USB-C to USB-A cable, though I'm sure we all have one of these by now. If you want to read a little bit more about this pedal, links in the description. So I've got my PRS McCarty here plugged into my Helix, out of the Helix into the Sonic IR, and then we're going out the balanced XLR connection into my interface. This section of the video, we're going to do a few things. I want to show you, I'll play through a couple of these IRs here. I also want to show you how you can load in your own impulse responses if you've bought a bundle in the past, or maybe you've actually created your own. Acoustic IRs obviously will work here too. The thing you have to keep in mind, needs to be 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz sample rate, needs to be mono. And I imagine, they didn't state it, but I imagine there is a length here, right? You can't use any old reverb impulse response that might be like 20 seconds long or 5 seconds long. It needs to be short. They haven't specified how many samples, but if you throw it in there and it's not working, you'll know. Short answer is 99% of the cab IRs out there are going to work fine. Same with acoustic body IRs. I do have a free bundle of my flat top acoustic guitar on my website if you want to check that out. I've also captured impulse responses of my Martin D28, my violin, and my viola that I'm just kind of working on the product for that, and that'll be released pretty soon too. So let's take a listen to some of the IRs here. The first one, and they actually tell you on the cards it comes with. So these are the impulse responses from the Sonic IR. I pulled them into my computer. We've got the first one. It is a Champ, Fender Champ 1x8 cabinet. Then we've got an AC30. Then we have a 65 twin reverb 2x12. A Marshall 2550, which I don't think I'm familiar with that cabinet. Then we've got a Fender Bassman. We've got an orange cab. We have a 1960 AV Marshall 4x12, PV 6505 4x12, Mesa Boogie rectifier, and then our two bass models here. Really great selection. A Mark Bass 2x10 cabinet, and then an Ampeg SVT 8x10. Both are legendary sounds. So yeah, let's listen to the first one. I have loaded the impulse responses into my Helix, although they're bypassed right now. So we're going to hear the actual Sonic IR get into work. This is a Dumble preset where I've removed the cabinet, and we're using the Fender Champ right now. Let's try it with a tweed here. It's going to be a cleaner sound. All right, and let's get on to the Vox AC30. Same preset here. Third IR is a Fender Twin. I also want to mention that it's cool there's no latency here, so you can change while you're holding a chord if you wanted to, if you wanted a different IR for a solo section in a song or whatnot. That's great that there's no delay. Damn, that really sounds like a twin. That's impressive. And then the fourth IR here, I have to remind myself, it is the anonymous Marshall 2550 that I'm not really a Marshall person. Damn, you can kind of tell my presets don't sound great with that because I'm just not into the Marshall sound. Then next up, we've got a 59 Bassman. So I've switched back to the Tweed model. Next one is, looks like they call it a Tangerine. This is the orange 4x12. Next up, we have the 1960 Marshall 4x12. Impulse response number 8 is the PV6505. Then we've got the Mesa Boogie for number 9. Right now, I'm going to walk you through how you can load in your own impulse responses here. I also did want to mention, this is related, that you might have noticed there's no bypass button on here. What if you're trying to incorporate this into your rig and you need it to be able to be bypassed? What if you're running direct some days you're using a live amp? Well, that's pretty easy. Find the IR that you like the least and just delete it. Now, when you start it up again, turn to that slot. Maybe you deleted IR number 11. That's your bypass slot. That's just it's going to bypass the pedal, right? It's going to be like the pedal's not doing nothing. All right, so now to get into loading our own IRs. Again, find an IR that you don't like because we only have 11 slots and delete it. I created a custom IR of my Supro and I've loaded it into slot 4. So what you need to do to make sure it loads in properly is, first of all, note the file size here. So these are pretty small WAV files, 10 kilobytes. That's kind of telling me that you need to keep the IR as short as possible. Right? Mine's a little bit long. It had some space, but when I was trying to load in the full length IR, it was like 120 kilobytes. It was saying that there wasn't enough room. Okay, maybe that's one negative that I've found with this pedal so far. I just wish there was a little bit more storage, so maybe you could use longer IRs. I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that, and that's why they didn't include it for $30. But anyway, so select the IR you want to load in. You're going to need to rename it. Give it a certain structure here. You can see they all start with a number, 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. This is so that the pedal can define what slot each IR is going into. So I deleted IR number 4. I took my Super IR and I renamed it just with 04 starting the file name. And that was enough to get it in there. Now you're going to want to delete the file list. It's going to generate that when you restart the pedal. Looks like it worked. We've got the Super IR and the new file list that it generated when the pedal restarted. Cool. I'm going to delete the other Marshall IR because I'm probably not going to use it. And slot number 7 is now going to be our bypass state. Let's get into the A-B comparison. First things first, I want to make it clear what the parameters for this A-B is. The impulse response is at the end of all of the Helix presets that you're going to hear, so we can make sure that effectively it's the same signal path, right? Definitely, I'm going to bypass the impulse responses on the Helix when I'm recording the Sonic IR, and in fact, when I'm recording the Helix samples, the Sonic IR is not in the chain at all. I'm actually unplugging it, and I'm going direct from the Helix to the interface. So that's taken out of the equation, of course, the digital processing, but also it's not just being bypassed, right, by switching to one of the bypass locations. It's actually being bypassed entirely, like it's physically out of the signal path. Okay, so here is the Vox IR running through a clean Helix preset, right? This is all Helix right now. And the same exact preset, just bypassing the IR in the Helix and running through the Sonic IR instead. Next time around, let's do the opposite. We'll start with the Sonic IR, and then I'm going to remove it from the signal path. You let me know if you hear a difference. So we're going to use, let's do the Fender Bassman for this one. Go to a little bit of a dirtier patch. And finally, let's do it with one more impulse response. I'll give you the Mesa Boogie, and I'm going to use my Dumble preset for this because it's got a lot of overdrive. Thanks for checking out my demo of the Sonic impulse response loading pedal. Hopefully I've answered all your questions by now. I know it was a pretty long video, but if you haven't, if I haven't answered them rather, just leave me a comment down below. I'd love to know your thoughts either way on how you thought it sounded. This has my endorsement. I get offered a lot of products just in my email. I probably turn down 50% of them. The other, maybe next 25%, they send me and they just don't hold up. I end up sending them back. This one I would definitely use on a live gig. This is incredibly useful, and for the price, it's hard to beat it. That's just my own honest opinion of the pedal. I wanted to wait till the end to share that. If this video was helpful, do all those things, hit the like button, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. There is an affiliate link down below where I would get a small commission if you decided to purchase through this link at no extra cost to you. I appreciate that. It helps to keep the channel running and do product demos just like this. Also, don't forget that impulse response bundle I mentioned, also linked in the description. It's totally free. That's an acoustic impulse response. What I did was I created a match EQ. It's not a true IR, but it'll work anywhere where any other IR will. I created a match EQ of this beautiful acoustic guitar, which will hopefully take your piezo signal from your acoustic guitar, transform it a little bit, and give some life back into that dry, ugly signal that we're getting from a piezo pickup. Anyway, yeah, that bundle's free in the description. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.